The Resurrection of Ali Shamkhani, a masterclass in counter-propaganda. The story of Ali Shamkhani's reported death and subsequent reappearance is not a sideshow, it is a central theater in the information war. It is a textbook case of how a state can turn an enemy's intelligence victory into a propaganda weapon against them. 1.1. The initial Israeli plot. The psychology of the decapitation strike. To understand the counter-move, we must first understand the initial move. When Israeli, and even some initial Iranian sources reported Shamkhani dead in the June 13th airstrike, it was a deliberate act of psychological warfare. The intention? To sow chaos and paranoia. The goal was to create the impression that the Israeli Mossad and Air Force had an almost omniscient reach, capable of targeting and eliminating a figure as senior and well-protected as a close aide to the supreme leader in his own home. This is designed to make every other senior Iranian official feel unsafe, leading to paranoia, mistrust, and a disruption of command and control. To trumpet a major victory, announcing the death of a key figure is a way to score a major, publicly understandable victory. It's a clear metric of success that demonstrates the effectiveness of the operation to both domestic and international audiences. 1.2. The Iranian counterplot. The politics of resurrection. The Iranian regime's response was a brilliant piece of political theater executed in several phases. Phase 1. The controlled clarification. The initial move by Iranian news agencies to clarify that Shamkhani was only seriously injured was the first step. The intention. This immediately began to sow doubt about the Israeli claim. It changed the narrative from successful assassination to failed assassination attempt, which is a less impressive victory for Israel. Phase 2. The public appearance. Having Shamkhani appear at the state funeral on June 28th was the visual centerpiece of the counterplot. The intention, a public appearance, provides undeniable proof that he is alive. It makes the initial Israeli claims look like false, arrogant boasting. Phase 3. The televised interview. The interview with IRB was the final masterstroke. Every element was carefully choreographed for maximum effect. The plot to transform Shamkhani from a victim into a heroic, defiant survivor, and in doing so, to humiliate Israeli intelligence. The intention and its execution. Visual proof of hardship. The ventilator. His appearance using a ventilator was a crucial prop. It visually confirmed that he had been grievously injured, lending credibility to his story. It prevented accusations that he was completely unharmed or that a body double was used. He is visibly wounded but alive. The survivor's narrative, trapped for 3 hours. His harrowing account of being trapped in the rubble creates a powerful human story. He is not just a bureaucrat. He is a survivor of a brutal attack, a symbol of resilience. The mysterious justification. I know why, but cannot disclose. This statement is pure psychological warfare. It hints at a deep secret, suggesting that Israel had a highly specific and important reason to target him personally. This elevates his own importance and creates an aura of mystery. It invites speculation and makes him seem even more central to the state's secrets. A man so important the enemy tried to personally eliminate him. Discrediting the enemy, the overall effect is to massively discredit Israeli intelligence. The message to the Arab world and beyond is, the Israelis lie. They claimed they killed one of our most senior officials, and here he is, alive and speaking to you. You cannot trust their claims of victory. The resurrection of Ali Shamkhani is a strategic victory for Iran in the information war. It successfully muddied the waters, turned an enemy's success into a source of ridicule, and created a powerful new symbol of the regime's defiance and indestructibility. Part 2. The Battle Damage Assessment. Deconstructing the victory claims. Both sides have emerged from the 12-day conflict claiming victory. The intelligence allows us to dissect these claims and understand the more complex reality of what was actually achieved. 2.1. The U.S.-Israeli victory, a doctrine of limited degradation. The emerging details from the U.S. and Israel reveal that Operation Rising Lion was not an all-out attempt to destroy Iran's nuclear program, but a far more precise and limited operation. The plot: to surgically degrade key components of Iran's nuclear and missile programs and decapitate its scientific and military leadership, thereby setting the programs back significantly and re-establishing a credible deterrent. The true mission, as stated by Senator Gray Murphy, the goal was to remove key parts of the nuclear program, not to completely clear all uranium. This is a critical distinction. Intention 1. Kill the knowledge. The killing of 11 nuclear scientists and 30 high-ranking security officials was a primary objective. A nuclear program is not just machinery, it is human capital. By eliminating a generation of senior experts, you create a massive knowledge gap that is difficult and time-consuming to fill. Intention 2. Destroy the means of delivery. The IDF claim of destroying 200 missile launchers, half of Iran's total, is another key part of the degradation strategy. A nuclear warhead is useless without a reliable missile to carry it. By crippling Iran's delivery capability, you neutralize the immediate threat. Intention 3. Damage critical infrastructure. The use of Tomahawks and bunker-buster bombs on Isfahan, Fordow, and Natanz was intended to physically destroy the specialized facilities needed for enrichment and weaponization. The limited success. The initial DIA report that the strikes might only delay the program by a few months, and the fact that Iran likely moved uranium beforehand, reveals the limitations of this approach. The Isfahan dilemma, the U.S. confirmation that it did not use bunker busters on Isfahan because it was too deep underground, is a major admission. It concedes that Iran has successfully created at least one facility that is immune to even America's most powerful conventional bombs. The Tomahawks used were for a different effect. This admission validates Iran's strategy of deep burial and will incentivize them to build more such facilities. The satellite images of Iran accessing tunnels at Isfahan afterwards confirms the facility, or at least parts of it, survived. The uranium shell game. The fact that Iran likely moved its uranium stockpiles shows a high level of operational security and foresight. It means the core fuel for a potential bomb remains intact. Conclusion on U.S.-Israeli victory. It was a tactical success, but a limited strategic one. They successfully executed their mission of degradation and decapitation. They killed the experts, destroyed the launchers, and damaged the factories. However, they failed to destroy the core enriched material and have admitted that at least one key facility is too deep to destroy conventionally. They have set the program back, but they have not ended it. 2.2. The Iranian victory, a doctrine of regime survival and narrative dominance. Iran's claim of victory is not based on a military assessment but on a political and psychological one. The plot: to define victory not as winning a battle but as surviving the enemy's best punch and retaining the core components of power, the pillars of Iranian victory. The regime survived. The primary goal of any authoritarian state is survival. The regime in Tehran is still in power. The supreme leader was not touched. From their perspective, this is the ultimate victory. The nuclear core survived. As confirmed by U.S. intelligence, the enriched uranium stockpile, the most difficult and time-consuming part of a nuclear program to create, survived. The seed corn for a future bomb is safe. Successful retaliation. The claim of hitting a U.S. base and Israeli facilities, while likely exaggerated, allows them to tell their people and proxies that they slapped the face of their enemies and did not absorb the blow passively. Defiance and unbroken will. Khamenei's statements that Iran will never surrender and has achieved victory are the capstone of this narrative. He is defining victory as a spiritual and political state of unbroken will, regardless of the physical damage. Conclusion on Iranian victory. It is a victory of perception over reality. While their programs and leadership were battered, the regime survived. Its core nuclear material is intact, and it has successfully crafted a powerful domestic narrative of heroic defiance. In the long game of political survival, this is a form of victory. Part 3. The diplomatic aftermath, the war of words and conditions. With the kinetic conflict paused, the battle has now fully shifted to the diplomatic and legal arenas. 3.1. Iran's conditions for talks, the politics of respect. Iran's demand that Trump stop criticizing Khamenei as a precondition for talks is a deliberate diplomatic strategy. The plot: to reframe the terms of any future negotiation, shifting the ground from Iran's nuclear obligations to America's diplomatic behavior. The intention: to elevate the supreme leader. As analyzed before, this is an attempt to make Khamenei an untouchable figure, and to portray criticism of him not as political speech, but as a fundamental act of disrespect that makes diplomacy impossible. To seize the diplomatic initiative. By setting a precondition, Iran is attempting to seize control of the process. It is no longer the supplicant being told what to do, it is the aggrieved party setting the terms for engagement. To play for time, this is also a classic delaying tactic. The debate over Trump's rhetoric can be used to stall any substantive talks while Iran quietly works to repair the damage to its facilities. 3.2. Iran versus the IAEA. The politics of access. Iran's refusal to allow IAEA inspectors access to the damaged facilities is another key part of its post-conflict strategy. The plot: to deny the international community a clear and verified assessment of the damage and of Iran's current nuclear activities. The intention: to conceal the extent of the damage and the rebuilding efforts. Iran does not want IAEA inspectors documenting the full extent of the destruction, as this would contradict their narrative of victory. More importantly, they do not want inspectors observing their urgent efforts to repair, salvage, and potentially relocate sensitive equipment. To retaliate against the IAEA, the criticism of Director Grossi for his malicious intent and refusal to condemn the attacks is Iran's way of punishing the IAEA for what it perceives as pro-Western bias. It is a signal that cooperation will only come if the IAEA acts in a way that Tehran deems fair. To increase leverage, by blocking access, Iran creates a new crisis and a new bargaining chip. The West will now have to negotiate for the restoration of inspections, a concession for which Iran will likely demand a price, for example, sanctions relief, a halt to political pressure. Grand synthesis: a new, unstable equilibrium. The 12-day conflict and its aftermath have not resolved the core conflict. They have simply established a new, more dangerous and more transparently hostile equilibrium. The end of the shadow war. The conflict marked the definitive end of the long shadow war between Israel and Iran. Both sides have now shown a willingness to engage in direct state-on-state military strikes. The new Israeli doctrine of all exemptions have ended codifies this new reality. The limits of conventional power. The U.S. has demonstrated the awesome power of its conventional bunker-busting technology, but it has also been forced to admit its limitations. The fact that the Isfahan facility was too deep to destroy with its best conventional bombs is a significant strategic data point that will shape future conflicts. Iran's strategy of deep burial has been partially validated. The primacy of narrative. The post-conflict environment has become a fierce battle to control the narrative. Iran's resurrection of Shamkhani and Khamenei's declaration of victory are powerful examples of how a state can use information warfare to mitigate a military defeat. The winner of this war of perception is still undecided. A cycle of reconstitution and preemption. The future trajectory is clear. Iran, feeling its vulnerability more acutely than ever, will be more determined than ever to secretly reconstitute its nuclear program and achieve a deterrent. Israel, emboldened by its operational success and guided by its new coercive doctrine, will be watching more closely than ever, prepared to strike preemptively at the first sign of a violation. The ceasefire brokered by the U.S. is merely a pause for breath in a long-term existential struggle. The Rising Lion operation was not the final chapter. As the Israeli defense minister warned, it was merely the overture. The stage is now set for the main performance, a confrontation that will be defined by Iran's desperate quest for a survival choice and Israel's ruthless determination to deny it.